back, dear viewers. You're still watching The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. It's now time for a second topic of discussion. And as we noted earlier in our introduction, we're going to be shedding the light on the topic of climate change and preserving the environment. And this, of course, comes as President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi heads to France to attend the One Ocean Summit tackling sea change. And to shed more light on this topic, we're most delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr Emad Adly, environmental expert. A very good morning, doctor, and thank you so much for joining us on The Breakfast Show.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone.
Doctor, first of all, if you can just define, or for the viewers, climate change, and what do you see as the direct consequences of climate change on the environment?
Climate change is one of the very, I would say, challenging threats in the last 30, 40 years for the whole planet. For a very simple reason, because it is affecting the whole livelihoods of people. We are talking about the effects on the climate, on the food security, on water security, on even the stability of communities in some places. In a very simple way, when we are putting more emissions of carbon dioxide and other global warming gases, we are putting the planet as a greenhouse. And by doing this, the whole climate is changing. And because of the greenhouse effect will increase the temperature of the whole planet, of the Earth planet. And as a consequence, we are, the first thing that we have noticed is the sea level rise happening in the ocean and in the seas like the Mediterranean Sea. And by having this, because in a very simple way, we are melting the snow and ice and that is already in the North Pole. So this increase in the sea level rise is affecting the stability and the communities living close to the shore and coast in many places, including the Delta, for example. The other thing is that by also increasing or raising the temperature, you are affecting the climate models in many places. So you have more flooding happening. You have extreme events. When it rains, it is more like flooding, and then when it is dry, it is more like drought. So this also affects the, as I said, food and water security for many places and for many regions. And already Egypt is affected by the whole phenomenon of climate change, the sea level rise, the flooding, and the drought.
Yes, speaking about Egypt, Dr. Emad, what is the direct impact on the country? And of course, also if you can shed the light on the efforts exerted by the Egyptian government to combat the harmful emissions and to have environment-friendly alternatives.
Yes, as I said, the sea level rise is affecting the Mediterranean coastal areas in Egypt, and in two ways. Number one, you are affecting the lands by having the threat of getting the sea level is getting higher. So this means that a large part of the north part of Egypt could be covered by the sea water, but in addition to that, you are also increasing the salinity of the underground water that is already used, and also it's very important for the agriculture in the delta. So these are the two threats at the north part of the country. But again, we have noticed in the last few years that the extreme events of heavy rain has already affected many places, and of course it affects the land, and also it affects the urban and rural areas when it becomes flooding. So this has a lot of loss and damage on the Egyptian side. and also by changing the climate pattern. You are also having many places that are affected by the drought and by the dryness, and having less rain than expected, especially in the northwest part of Egypt. We are talking about Nubaria and areas that are also very important for the food security in Egypt. The Egyptian government and also Egyptian organizations like mine, in the case of the civil society organizations, the first thing we have done is to build the resilience of communities, to build the resilience of the country against the climate change. The first thing we do is to raise the awareness and to build the capacity of the different stakeholders. This is the first step to do the adaptation, because in our case, adaptation is the most important thing. We're back to the definition of climate change. When we deal with climate change, we are either working on mitigation to minimize the emissions of the greenhouse gases, and the other thing is to deal with the adaptation strategies and adaptation actions that you have to take to combat the climate change effect. So Egypt has tried to do that, and so as I said, awareness raising and capacity building is the first thing to work in the direction of resilience. And then it comes into action. Already Egypt has...
Yes, indeed, Dr. Emad Adly, environmental expert. We really appreciate your insight, and thank you so much for joining us on the Breakfast Show. And dear viewers, we're going to be going for a very quick break, and then we'll be back to resume the Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International.